Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to everyone. 1 week before the high holiday starts, which actually begins next Friday night. Can you believe it? So next time when you see us on Friday night, we'll be in the large sanctuary, and our cantor will be here, and we'll start the high holiday season promptly. So we will begin tonight's service. We're praying out of Siddur Lev Shalem, and we begin on page 5 with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon, mi melech malchei amlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Baruch hu ni l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon, mi melech malchei amlachim hakadosh Dosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon, mi melech malchei amlachim hakadosh Baruch Hu. We continue with on page 11 with Psalm 95. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Nariya, nariya, letzor yishenu, nekadma fana betoda. Nariya, nariya, letzor yishenu, Bizmirot nariya lo, lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Lechu neranena, lechu neranena, lechu neranena l'Adonai. Nariya, nariya, letzor yishenu, nekadma fana betoda. Nariya, nariya, letzor yishenu, Bizmirot nariyalo. We continue in the English. Let us go and sing to Adonai. Let us trumpet praise to our protector. Filled with thanks, let us greet God, raising our voice in song. Great is Adonai, a greater sovereign than all other deities. God's hands formed the earth's deep. Mountain crests too are God's work. The sea is God's, for God made it. Dry land was fashioned by God's hands. Come then, let us bow and kneel, let us bend our knees in the presence of Adonai who formed us. For Adonai is our God, and we are God's flock, sheep in God's caring hands. If only you would listen today to God's voice and not become hard-hearted, like the people at the Merivah, like the time at Massah, in the desert when your ancestors tried me and tested me, though they had seen what I had wrought. For 40 years I was troubled by that generation, and I said, these are a people whose hearts have gone astray. They do not know my way, so in anger I swore they would not enter my rest. Arba'im shanakut bedor v'omaram toeh levavim v'hem lo yad derachai asher nishpati v'api im yavaon El menuchati, page 13, Psalm 96. Ashiru ladonai shir chadash, shiru ladonai kol haaretz, shiru ladonai baruch shamo, basru meyom leom yeshuato, sapru vagoyim kevodo, bechol ha'amim nifliotav, Ki gadol Adonai, O mehulal miyod, no ra'u, al ko Elohim, lai lai lai, ki ko Elohei ha'amim elilim, va'adonai shamayim asa, Hod v'hadar lefanav, Oz v'tiferet b'mikdasho, Havu l'Adonai mishpachot amim, Havu l'Adonai kavod v'oz, Havu l'Adonai ke'evod shemo, Seu mincha, Uvahu l'chadzorot av lai lai lai, Shtachavu l'Adonai behadrat kodesh, Chilum mipanav kol haaretz, Imrum vagoyim Adonai malach, Avtikom tevel balatimot, Yadin amim b'meisharim, Yismechu hashamayim v'tagil haaretz, Ayir amayamu melo, Yalo sadai, V'chol asher bo lai lai lai, Az yiranenu kol hatziyar, Lifnei Adonai kiva, Kiva lishpot haaretz, Yishpot tevel b'tzedek, V'yamim b'emunato, Yalai la lai lai, Yai la lai lai lai, Yai lai lai lai, Lai 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 lai, Yai lai lai lai, Yai lai 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 lai, Yai lai lai lai. We continue, page 15. Magnus, why don't you come sit next to Betty, and she'll keep you, she'll tell you where we are and what we're doing. This is Betty, this is Magnus. We continue, page 15, with Psalm 97 responsibly. And Betty, would you lead us, please? Clouds and thick darkness surround the divine. Righteousness and justice secure God's throne. Fire goes before God, consuming besiegers round about.
Flashes of light illumine the land. The earth watches and trembles. Mountains melt like wax at the approach of Adonai, at the approach of the Master of all the earth.
The heavens tell of God's righteousness, and all the nations see God's glory.
Worshippers of idols be shamed for praising false gods. All that is deemed supreme bow before God.
Zion hears of it and rejoices. The cities of Judah exalt as you, Adonai, pass judgment.
You, Adonai, are above all that is earthly, exalted over all that is worshipped as divine.
Those who love Adonai hate evil. God protects the lives of the faithful, saving them from the hands of the sinful.
Life is sown for the righteous, joy for the upright. Rejoice in Adonai, you righteous people, and thank God as you pronounce the divine holy name.
Or Zarula Tzadik will Israel Simcha, Simchu Tzadikim Badunai, Vahodu Lazecher Kadesho. We continue, page 17, with Psalm 98. Mizmor Shiro Ladonai Shir Chadash, Ki Nifla Dasa Hoshia Lo Yemino. Ozaroa Kocho Adia Adonai Yeshuato, Le'ena Goyim Gilad Sid Kato, Zachar Chasta ve'emunato, Levei Yisrael Ha'u Cholav Se'aretz, Et Yeshuat Eloheinu, Oriu Ladonai Kol Haaretz, Bitchum ve'ranenu ve'zameru, Zamru Ladonai bechinar, Bechinar ve'kol zimara, Bechatzot rod ve'kol shofar, Hariu lifnei HaMelech Adonai, Yiramayam u'meloho, Tevel v'yoshveva, Neharot kimcha uchaf, Yachad arim yiranenu, Lifnei Adonai kivo, Lishpot haaretz, Yishpot tevel b'tzedek, V'yamim b'mesharim, Yalai la 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 la, Yalai la 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 la, Yalai la 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 la, Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Page 19, Psalm 99. Adonai reigns, nations tremble. The one enthroned amidst the cherubim makes the world quake.
The noise great in Zion, above all nations. They shall acknowledge your name, saying, Great, awe-inspiring, holy God.
A sovereign strength lies in the love of justice, and you forge the paths of truth, judging Jacob righteously and justly.
Exalt Adonai our God, bow down before God, the Holy One.
Moses and Aaron among God's priests, and Samuel among those who called upon the divine name, called to you, and you answered them. You spoke to them from amidst the cloud. They kept your covenant and the law you gave them. You answered them, Adonai, our God. You were a forgiving God to them, even as you punished them for their transgressions. Exalt Adonai, our God, and bow down at God's holy mountain, for Adonai, our God, is holy. Ramemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu la'ar kadosho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. We rise, if you are able, page 21, Psalm 29. Mizmor leDavid, havu l'Adonai b'nei Elim, havu l'Adonai kavod vos, havu l'Adonai kavod shemo, ishtachavu l'Adonai behadrat kodesh, kol Adonai al hamayim, el kavod irim, Adonai al mayim rabim, kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai be'adar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et alzei halvanon, Vayarkidem kemo egel, Lebanon v'Sirion kemo venreimim, Kol Adonai chotzev lavotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yecholel ayalo, vayechesop yachod, uvehechalo kulo omer kavod. Adonai lamabul yashavaye, shev Adonai melech leolam, Adonai oz le'am uyiten, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom, et amo, et amo, et amo v'shalom. You may be seated. We continue with Lechadodi, page 23. Lechadodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Lechadodi lekrat kala p'nei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Hishmianu elam yuchad, Adonai echad u'shamahu echad, L'shemu tiferet v'liti la lecha, Dodi lekrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela, Lekrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki mikor aberacha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof maaseh b'machshvat chila lecha, dodi lekrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela, mikdash melech ir melucha, kumitzi mitocha v'charav lach, shevet b'yemek avacha, V'hu yachamohu alaychem lalecha, dodi lekrat kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela, hitnari me'afar kumi, livshei vigdei tifartech ami, ayad min yishai beit alachmi, karva el nafshi geya lalecha, dodi lekrat Kala b'nei Shabbat nikabela, hitoreri, Kiva ore kumi ori shir daberi kivod Adonai alayich nigla lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela lo tevoshi V'lo tikami ma tishtochachi umate mibach Yechasu ani ayami v'nivneta iralti la Lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela Ayulem shisa Shoasayich v'rachaku kol mivalayich Yasis alayich Elohayich kimchas chatan al kala lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela Yaminu smoti frotzi v'et Adonai taritzi ayadish ben partzi v'nismecha v'nagila lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela. We rise and we face towards the west to greet the Shabbat bride as we sing the last line of L'chadudi at the bottom, page 25. Bo'i v'shalom materet bala gam besimcha uvetzala tochem munei am segula bo'i chala Bo'i chala lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat nekabela. You may be seated. We continue page 27 with Psalm 92. It is good to thank you, Adonai, and sing to your name, Most High, to proclaim your love at daybreak, your faithfulness each night. You gladden me with your deeds, Adonai, and I shall sing of your handiwork.
How wonderful are your works, Adonai. How subtle your design.
The arrogant do not understand. The fool does not comprehend this. The wicked flourish like grass, and every evildoer blossoms only to be destroyed forever.
But you, Adonai, are exalted for all time.
Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered.
As a wild bull raises up its horn, you raised my head high, anointed it with fresh oil.
As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear.
The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in our God's courtyards.
In old age they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming, Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw. Tzadik tamar yifrach ki erez balvanon yiske shetulim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun beseva deshenim verananim yeyu le'agid ki yashar Adonai tzuri v'lo avlatabo. Page 29, Psalm 93. Adonai is sovereign, robed in splendor, girded in strength. The earth stands firm, not to be dislodged. From earliest time you are enthroned, you are eternal. The river.
Rise up, Adonai, the rivers raise up their roar. The rivers raise up their waves. Above the roar of the vast sea and the majestic breakers of the ocean, Adonai stands supreme in the heavens.
In your house, beautiful in its holiness, your testimonies endure, Adonai, for all time. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to our Shabbat service, our last Shabbat service of the liturgical year, because next week is the first of Tishrei, which begins the high holiday season with Rosh Hashanah. Second. There we go. All right. So this is how Deuteronomy 29, this is how the book, the Parsha for Nitzavim, we have a double portion this week. It's Nitzavim Vayelach. And this is how it starts. Moses summoned all Israel and said, actually, I'm going to start at verse 9. Sorry about that. Got myself in the wrong place. You stand this day, all of you, before the Lord your God, your tribal heads, your elders and your officials, all the men of Israel, your children, your wives, even a stranger within your camp, from the woodchopper to the water drawer, to enter into the covenant of the Lord your God, which the Lord your God is concluding with you this day with his sanctions, to the end that he may establish you this day as his people and be your God, as he promised you and as he swore to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I make this covenant with its sanctions, not with you alone, but with those who are standing here with us today before the Lord our God, and with those who are not with us this day. Interesting way. Who is not here with us this day? You and I, the descendants of the Israelites in the desert. These words began Moses' third and last discourse on the day of his death. It is a summons to ratify the covenant. This is a reaffirmation of the covenant entered into at Sinai, a reaffirmation. You can enter the covenant, and this is a reaffirmation. So I guess the parallel to this would be those that enter into life. A male is circumcised on the 8th day with a brit milah. Girls also have a brit bat, but not necessarily with full comprehension or understanding or acceptance of the one that's entering. So we do a reaffirmation at the age of 13 with the bar and bat mitzvah. That's how this is looked at. That's a reaffirmation. It says, you stand, all of you, you stand this day, all of you, before the Lord your God. The Chatam Sofer said, at the time the Torah was given, we were told, I stood between the Lord and you. How is it that here, just before his death, Moses did not stand between God and the Jewish people? One can explain this in accordance with what I heard from my great mentor, Rabbi Natan Adler. As long as a person's teacher is alive, his student cannot reach his greatest potential. This was the case with Joshua, whose light was not revealed until after Moses had died. Similarly, God did not appear to Isaac until after Abraham had died. And the same was true of Jacob until Isaac had died. The same was true here. Moses told the people, as it were, there at Sinai, it was my presence that prevented you from coming closer to God. It was as if Moses had served as a partition, preventing the people from attaining a level which would allow them to approach to God, which would allow them to approach God. At this point, however, Moses was about to die, and as a person who is about to die has lost all his authority, the people were able to approach God directly. So I believe this drash, which is based on an inconsistency in the Torah, manifests itself when Moses in one case stood between the people and God at the theophany at Sinai, and in this case, where he did not stand between them and God on the eve of their entering the promised land, the land of Canaan. All of this touches on a tension in the way Jews pray. When the temple existed, the priest stood between us and God, since it was they who offered the sacrifices as our representative. But when the temple wall street was destroyed, putting the Judean economy in a tailspin, all of the priests were downsized. All silent sacrifices morphed into spoken prayer, and the centralized singular temple became a myriad of individually, locally run synagogues. Priests did not run the synagogues, and each individual Jew offered his or her own prayers without the need of an intermediary. Just as a need for structure was needed when the temple existed, such was the need for this newfangled synagogue idea. A structure was created and developed over time till we arrive at pretty much what we have today in modern synagogues. The tension between wanting to have an intermediary between us and God is reflected in our liturgy. Jews approach God both individually and as a community, all at the same time. We pray by ourselves while in a crowd, counting the people in line. We are led in worship, but must say the words ourselves. We pray out loud to ourselves. We are encouraged to be spontaneous in our prayers within a fairly rigid, fixed guideline, which is our Siddur, what we have been praying from. This is the Jewish concept of keva and kavanah. Keva is fixed prayer, what the words say in the Siddur. Kavanah is what we're supposed to feel. And there are places in our liturgy where we can do spontaneous prayer. So there are times in the Amida prayer, which we'll do in just a few minutes with the Mariv service. There are times in the Amida prayer where we can be spontaneous. Between each bracha, there are 7 brachot in the Shabbat Amidah. Between those 7 brachot, one can offer or reflect on that theme in a spontaneous way. So if we turn to the last page of the Amidah, I wanted you to look at this, the last bracha of the Amidah. So if you turn in your Siddur to page, I will get there, 37. So this is, and look what it says at the top. Look at the English instruction. All study concludes with the following passage. Okay, and in a previous Siddur, it actually says we are allowed to conclude the Amidah with personal prayers, and it doesn't have to include this. You can actually say your own prayer instead of this. This is just given as an example. So, and what does it say? One should not go out with a sword, bow, shield, lance, or spear. One who goes out with any of these is liable to bring a purification offering. Rabbi Eliezer says that they are worn as ornaments, but the sages maintain that they are disgraced. Sorry. I am reading the wrong place. I apologize for that. I did not have this out, and I should have. Hang on 1 second while I get myself. Sorry, I was using a different prayer book when I did this before. Shoot. Oh, I know what the problem was. I'm going to tell you the right page, and I'm going to read that. Okay. Turn to page 52. I really apologize. And this is what I really wanted you to read, what was at the top of this page. The silent recitation of the Amidah concludes with a personal prayer or one of the following, and this is what it gives it as an example. My God, keep my tongue from evil, my lips from deceit. Help me ignore those who would slander me. Let me be humble before all. Open my heart to your Torah that I may pursue your mitzvot. Frustrate the designs of those who plot evil against me. Nullify their schemes. Act for the sake of your name. Act for the sake of your triumph. Act for the sake of your holiness. Act for the sake of your Torah. Answer my prayer for the deliverance of your people. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. So this is your time to add something creative, intensely personal. But if you cannot come up with anything, here are 2 examples on this page. The first example comes from the Talmud, word for word. It is among about 7 other prayers that others said at the end of their Amidah prayer. This one was written by Mar, the son of Ravina, who was an Amorah from the 4th century in Babylonia, which is where modern-day Iraq is. His prayer is written in the singular, which is remarkable since the Amidah itself is all plural. That is because this is a personal prayer for the individual, not the community. That's what makes it personal. And I want to conclude with a reading from a wonderful, wonderful exposition on the Machzor, the High Holidays, by Chaim Herman Kival, which I got in rabbinical school, and it's just beautiful. And he says this on this particular prayer in the Amidah. This beautiful meditation is cited in the Talmud as a private prayer of Mar, the son of Rabina. It is one of the rare examples of a prayer couched in the singular, which was accepted into the public liturgy. Though its beauty is found through its beauty, it found its place in all rites and became a pendant to the Amidah when spoken silently. A scholar of medieval Provence, Don Vidal Solomon, reports an otherwise unknown custom of reciting here on Rosh Hashanah a second personal meditation of this type, Elohai ad shelo netzarti. Here we see the influence of the Yom Kippur liturgy, for there the 2 meditations are recited together at the conclusion of each Amidah. An English rendering of this follows. My God, before I was formed, I had no worth. And now that I have been formed, I am as though I had not been formed. Dust am I in my life, all the more so in my death. Behold, I am before thee like an object filled with shame and confusion. May it be thy will, O Lord my God and God of my fathers, that I sin no more. As for the sins I have committed before thee, cleanse them away in thine abundant mercy, but not through affliction and suffering. It's a beautiful offering that we recite in the Rosh Hashanah liturgy. May this high holiday season, we can all reflect on a personal prayer that we might add to our Amidah to make it unique and special and help make our prayers more meaningful for the coming year. So I offer all of you a Shabbat Shalom and an early Shana Tova, a happy and healthy new year. We will continue our service with Ma'ariv. And now I have to find out, because I closed my Siddur, where we are. And there we are. So let us turn to page 39a and rise for the Baruch Hu, the call to worship. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Vo'ed. You may be seated. Baruch et Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, whose word brings the evening dusk, whose wisdom opens the gates of dawn, whose understanding changes the day's division, whose will sets the succession of seasons and arranges the stars in their places in the sky, who creates day and night, who rolls light before darkness and darkness from light, who makes day pass into night, who distinguishes day from night. Adonai Tzavaot is your name, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch et Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. Page 40. Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael amchavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim ha'mishpatim otanu limadta al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shakvenu v'kumenu nesiach bechukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha uvamitzvotecha leolam voed ki hem chayenu v'orech yameinu uvohem manege yomam v'layla v'yavat chatasi mimenu la'olamim baruch et Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. V'yahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha Vehayu hadvarim ho'ela asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecham v'shinanetam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shachpecha v'kmecha u'kshartam niot al yadecha v'hayu latotafot b'neinecha Uchtav dam nam zuzot beitecha uvisharecha v'haya'im shamot tishma'u el mitzvotai. Vayomer Adonai o Moshe lemor daber el bnei Yisrael v'yamarta alehem v'yasu lahem tzitzit al kanfei v'gdehem ledoratam v'natnu al tzitzit hakana petil techelet v'yalachem letzitzit oritem oto Uschartem et kol mitzvot Adonai va'asitem otam V'lo tatu acharei levavachem liacharei nechem, asher tem zonim achareihem, leman dizgaru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'item gadoshim leloechem, ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etachem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem emet. We continue page 43a. This is our enduring affirmation binding on us that Adonai is our God, there is none other, and we, Israel, are God's people. God is our sovereign, redeeming us from earthly rulers, delivering us from the hand of all tyrants, bringing judgment upon our oppressors and just retribution upon all our mortal enemies, performing wonders beyond understanding and marvels beyond all reckoning. God places us among the living, not allowing our steps to falter, and leads us past the false altars of our enemies, exalting us above all those who hate us. Adonai avenged us with miracles before Pharaoh offered signs and wonders in the land of Egypt. God brought Israel from its midst to lasting freedom and led them through the divided waters of the Sea of Reeds. As their pursuers and enemies drowned in the depths, God's children beheld the power of the divine. They praised and acknowledged God's name. Page 44. U'machuta b'ratzun kibel eihem Moshe u'Miriam u'vnei Yisrael chanishira b'simcha rabba v'yamaru chulam mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedor b'kodesh Nora tehilot o seifele malchut techara uvenecha bo kiyam lifnei Moshe zeli anu v'yameru Adonai imloch leolam voed v'nemhar kifad Adonai et Yaakov ugolad miad chazak mimenu baruch et Adonai ga'al Yisrael. Page 45. Hashkivenu Adonai Elohim l'shalom. Ushmotzetenu vein l'chaim u'shlamit avi olam u'fosan l'skat shlomecha baruch et Adonai haboretzu kat shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael V'al Yerushalayim. We rise, page 46 for Vishamru. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorat barit olam. Beini ve'bnei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. Uvayom hashvi shavat vayinafash shavat vayinafash v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledoratam barit olam. We now continue with the silent Friday night Amidah, pages 47 through 52. So there are 7 brachot. You may add any personal prayers at the end of the Amidah. Pray in Hebrew, pray in English, or pray in the best language of the heart, the best language of all, the language of the heart. Page 47. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki Ata Melech Adon Lechol HaShalom. Ki Ata Melech Adon Lechol HaShalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'enecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol ed u'v'chol sha'a bishlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. You may be seated. We continue page 53. Vayechulu hashamayim ve'haaretz v'chol tzevaam. Vayechal Elohim bayom hashvi melachto asher asa. Vayishbot bayom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa. Vayivarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i vayikadesh oto. Kivo shavat mikol melachto. Kivo shavat mikol melachto. Asher bara Elohim. Asher bara Elohim lasod. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elokei Avotenu Elokei Avraham Elokei Yitzchak v'Elokei Yaakov Ho'el HaGadol Gibor v'Anorah אל עליון קונה שמיים וארץ, מגן אבות בדברו, מחיי מתים במאמרו, האל הקדוש שאין כמוהו, המניח לעמו ביום שבת קודשו. כי בם רצה להניח להם, כי בם רצה להניח להם, לפניו נעבוד ביראה ופחד, ונודה לשמו בכל יום תמיד מעין הברכות. אלה הודעות אדון השלום, מקדש השבת ומברך שביעי, ומניח בקדושה לעם בקדוש שני עונג, זכר למעשה וראשית. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, רצה ומנוחתנו, קדשנו במצוותיך, ותן חלקנו בתורתך, סבנו מטובך, ושמחנו בישועתך, ותהי ליבנו לעבדך באמת, והנחילנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה וברצון. שבת קודשך, וינוחו בו ישראל מקדשי שמך, ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש HaShabbat. And we continue, we rise, page 56 as the ark is open for Aleinu. Aleinu לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרא בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו הבל זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשיבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת. אין עוד על כן בכבוד אלוהינו, לראות מהם בתפארת וזכר הארץ. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. You may be seated. This week we will observe yard sites for Bertha Plotka, Elma Sharker, Solomon S. Bitan, Bruce Lubell, Louis H. Kushner, Lelton Fretwell, and Nathan Wasserman. Those observing yard site and those who mourn, please rise and join me, page 58, for the Kaddish Tome, the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabba b'yoma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon v'yamechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agalav v'zman kariv yimaru amen yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'olam olmei maya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitchomam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudisha barichu le'lam min kol birchata v'shirata Tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran bi'omavi maru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'maru amen. Oseh shalom bimramav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'maru amen. And before we sing Yigdal, we're going to turn to page 59. And we add, beginning on the first day of the month of Elul, we're in the month of Elul now. We're at the end of the month of Elul, but beginning on the first day, through Hoshana Rabbah at the end of Sukkot, we add Psalm 97. I was at Limud last weekend, which is a total immersive Jewish experience at Ramat Daron. And somebody just out of the blue say, why do we recite Psalm 27 at this time of year? I was completely caught off guard by that. But had I had my Lev Shalem in front of me, I would have said the following. Psalm 27 expresses two opposite feelings, each of which may be felt on these days. From the beginning, the psalmist expresses absolute faith in God, culminating in this striking sentence. Though my father and mother abandon me, Adonai will gather me in. But at the same time, the psalmist experiences God's presence. The speaker longs to see God, yet receives no response to this longing. The poem's last line leaves us with a thin, consoling thread of hope, making us realize perhaps how much our lives depend on faith. The psalm, with its themes of hope and faith in God, along with its expression of a powerful sense of yearning, was thought to be appropriate for the days leading up to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and the days that followed. So let us go ahead and, on page 59, let us go ahead and recite in English Psalm 27. A psalm of David. Adonai is my light and my help. Whom shall I fear? Adonai is the stronghold of my life. Whom shall I dread? When evil people assail me to devour my flesh, my enemies, and those who besiege me, it is they who stumble and fall. Should an armed camp be arrayed against me, my heart would show no fear. If they were to go to war against me, of this I would be sure. One thing I ask of Adonai, this is what I seek, to dwell in the house of God all the days of my life, to behold God's peacefulness and to pray in God's sanctuary. In a time of calamity, you would hide me in your sukkah and fold me in the secret recesses of your tent, and you raise me up to a stronghold. Now my head is raised high above my enemies around about, and I come with offerings amidst trumpet blasts to God's tent, chanting and singing praise to Adonai. Adonai, hear my voice as I cry out. Be gracious to me and answer me. It is you of whom my heart said, seek my face. It is your presence I seek, Adonai. Do not hide your face from me. Do not act with anger toward me. You have always been my help. Do not forsake me. Do not abandon me, my God, my deliverer. Though my father and mother abandon me, Adonai will gather me in. Show me your way, Adonai, and lead me on a straight path, despite those arrayed against me. Do not hand me over to those who besiege me, for false witnesses who breathe hatred have risen against me. If only I would trust that I would see God's goodness in the land of the living. Place your hope in Adonai. Be strong and take courage, and place your hope in Adonai. So again, Shabbat Shalom, and welcome to everyone to our last Shabbat of the year, because next week begins the high holiday season. It begins the year 5784. And we will gather in our large sanctuary next week for the beginning of the high holiday season. Traditionally, on the Saturday night Before Rosh Hashanah, there's a restriction in there, but I'm not going to go into it. Basically, the Shabbat, the Saturday night before Rosh Hashanah, Saturday night, because that's the first day of the week after sundown. And right from the first day of the week that Rosh Hashanah occurs, we say prayers of penitence. We say prayers of asking for forgiveness. We call this slichot. The word slicha just means I am sorry. Slichot is plural. So we ask many people for forgiveness. We say sorry to those that we've hurt during the year. Tomorrow night, the Alabama Community Virtual Slichot, which is our traditional Havdalah group, will meet via Zoom, and we will offer a musical Slichot, which we have done. This will be our 4th year since the beginning of the pandemic. And if any of you remember that very first one we did at the end of August 2020, we were Zoom bombed, and it was a terrible, terrible experience that all of those who attended remember. And we remember that hurt that existed in us for a long time. But we recovered from it. And we've done 2 slichot without incident since. And tomorrow's will also be without incident. That was back in the days when Zoom did not have protections, waiting rooms and such. And there's actually a fail-safe. There's one button I can hit that'll take everybody's camera off, everybody's microphone off, except mine, and I bring people back in one by one. So it's great. Services will continue tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. With the continuation of Shabbat. And again, the high holiday season begins next week with Rosh Hashanah on Friday night. So we're going to end tonight on page 62 with Yigdal. I usually don't sing Yigdal, because the tune that comes out of my head is always the high holiday tune. So I figured I'll sing it tonight, and I don't know what I'm going to sing. I don't know if I'll sing the regular one or the high holiday one, but it'll probably come out the high holiday one. There's a special high holiday nusach for Yigdal. Page 62. Yigdal Elohim chai v'yishtabach Nimtza v'yenet el metziuto Echad v'yen yachid keyichudo Ne'lam v'gam ein sof le'achduto Ein lo demut haguf v'yeino guf Lo naroch elav kedushato Kadmon lechol davar Asher nivra Rishon v'ein reshit lereshito Hino Adon Olam v'chol notzar Yoreh gedulato u'malchuto Shefa nevuato Netano el anshe segulato V'tifarto lo kam b'Yisrael k'Moshe od Navi umabit et emunato Torat emet natan le'amoel Ayad nevio neman beito Lo yachalif ohel V'lo yamir dato Le'olamim lezulato Tzofeh v'yodea Sitarenu Mabit lesof davar B'kadmato Gomer le'ish chesed Kemifalo Noten l'rashara Kerishato Yishlach lekeit shamin Meshichenu Liftot mechakeketz Yeshuato Meitim Yechayael Berov chasto Baruch Adei Ad Shem Dehilato. Meitim Yechayel Berov Chasto. Baruch Adei Ad Shem Dehilato. Shabbat Shalom. Shana Tova V'Tikateru. May you all have a blessed new year, happy and healthy, and may you all be written in the book of life. Shabbat Shalom.